She-Hulk premiered last Thursday. Yes, that's right. Disney Plus premiere, not on a Wednesday. It's on Thursday nights. uh, One episode dropped. I think it was. I don't even remember how long it was, but um, I think it was called a normal amount of rage. was was what it was titled. And this, of course, had mostly featured Bruce Banner and Jennifer Walters, as she tries to. She accidentally. I don't. They never really quite explain why the accident happened. I mean, we saw they were trying. She and her Bruce were. That's her cousin. They were on a trip and talking, and then uh, spaceship comes out of nowhere, and they get in a crash, and then her wound and his blood, and now she's a Hulk, and now she's got to figure out how to be a Hulk. But it kind of starts off as like cold open starts with her getting ready to go to court, to have to do a court case, a lawsuit or something like that, and then it all ends with you know the court proceeding getting interrupted, and she got to go Hulk and everything. That's essentially what's going on. So anyway, I got some thoughts, but Lottie, what do you think about this first episode?
Be honest, I was not feeling this episode. I don't know. It didn't make me laugh. I didn't find none of the jokes really landed for me, you know. And I heard from like different people's reviews that I think Disney made a bad choice not showing like a lot of people I saw that like watched the first four episodes, they kind of said the same thing that they don't understand why Disney only showed the one episode
Hmm.
because they
Hmm.
said it kind of needed the second episode to play into the first episode because it just felt like how could I say it just felt like a like I liked the parts of where they were Bruce Banner were together and the little small little training montage. But the jokes really didn't land for me because I don't know, it just didn't come off as funny to me. I like the little Easter eggs that they put in there. Like the Sakar ship where they're probably teasing Planet Hulk. Uh his helmet was there and I would say the one thing that I was just like, wow, I kind of wish in my like how I was imagining the scene, I thought the car wreck was gonna happen, and then she got fatally injured, and him as Hulk took her to his place and he injected the blood in her, but just little droplets of blood made her into the She-Hulk. Kind of like I don't know. It kind of is like a big plot hole because there's a lot of times Hulk has bled on people
Yeah.
and they've never
Well,
turned into the Hulk or poisoned
I'll
them.
answer that for you. It's he explained that it was a DNA thing, that because they have similar genetics, and I think that this is actually leading to um, an explanation that we know from the comics about why superpowered people occur on Earth.
Hmm.
It's in part because of you know certain people, they have DNA that's been that they are descendants of people whose DNA were fooled with excuse me, by alien, Kree or whatever. And some people are mutants like Kamala Khan, and some people are inhumans or whatever. And so he literally was just like, "Oh, I examine your DNA. It's just like mine. We have the ability to process gamma radiation. That's why you can be a Hulk." So the thing was that his blood doesn't necessarily make anybody else a Hulk. So you have to be compatible, or you have to have your DNA altered, like Abomination, in order to become a Hulk. That's pretty much what's going on. So anyway, you didn't think it was all you didn't like the jokes so much.
Yeah,
What
it's. Hmm. What
no,
are
I
you
was
about to say?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say you didn't like the joke so much. What did you think about the CGI? Like the presentation, the CGI. You know, because it's very CG heavy. This episode was.
I will say this. I, I I felt they put more effort to make Hulk, Bruce Banner's Hulk, look better than hers, and it's you could kind of see it. It just her Hulk looks, and I also watched this guy explain it because instead of making her muscular like the Hulk is, they just made her taller and bigger. It almost looked uncanny. So it just looks wrong. That it's not that the CGI looks bad, it's the actual model of her that they used. It just looks wrong. It's sort of like it's like you said. It's like imagine you're playing a video game and the character you're playing as is a 9 foot character. It will just look wrong. The character looks right. It just looks wrong in the environment because, like I said, when you look at Bruce Banner's Hulk, he's super muscular. You can see all the muscular defining things on his body. Her, she just looks like her, just 8 foot tall.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
just big. She's bigger, filled out a little more.
Yeah.
I mean, Tatiana Maslany, she's not a big person,
Yeah.
so she's just we should note this is exactly the way it is in the comics too. Like in the comics, She Hulk is not a roided out. She's just a really, I mean, she's a really tall, green, and muscular woman. So there's sometimes being faithful to the comics, maybe that doesn't necessarily work. I mean, I personally I like this episode. I didn't love it. I liked it, and I see it for what it is, which is where this is the jump off point. So you got to explain what's going on and where for the rest of the series. There's 8 more episodes after this, so they're sort of like saying, all right, this is how we got here. And I like the cold opening bit where we this is what's happened. I like the fact that she jumps right into the I can talk to the audience thing. That's
Hmm.
what's cool. And then later on you see the first moment she realizes that being She-Hulk lets her talk to the audience, which was fun. Like, I mean, it plays out like a pseudo like something of a sitcom, and
Yeah.
I'm all for it. The MCU needs more types of shows, and a legal comedy where the main character can talk to the audience. I'm with that. So I mean, for me, most of the jokes were pretty on, as far as I was concerned. I think what I think what kind of maybe my expectations were a bit high or something like that. At times I was just like, yeah, this is cool and all, and y'all, but maybe y'all are belaboring the point a little bit. Maybe you're going a little too long on this particular joke or on this particular scenario.
I think that's probably what it was. I was expecting it to be Harley Quinn funny, and it probably I should have never came with into that with that type of expectations. But I mean, when you the the directors and the people who were writing the show were hyping it up to be like that funny, so I guess I should have just been like you said, to see what it is as more of like a sitcom with probably some like laughs here and there instead of me rolling on the ground laughing.
Yeah, but I mean, and we got to remember it's still an MCU show, so they're still gonna have to have superhero fights and all that other stuff. And also, Jennifer Walter, we don't really know her, so we got to get to know her too. And she puts herself on display here. And in fact, we see her more completely, I think, than we would if she were around other people, because this is her cousin. She's a lot more free to be who she is, and she's under a lot of stress or whatever. And she kind of figures out this whole Hulk thing, or at least she thinks she does, pretty quickly. I think there was you know, there's some parts of this that it's sort of controversial or whatever. They're not very controversial to me. She takes to being a Hulk pretty quickly because she doesn't have another person inside of her. She doesn't have a separate personality. Jennifer Walters is Jennifer Walters no matter what's going on.
I
So
mean, that's comic book canon.
yeah, I mean, she literally doesn't have to learn how to deal with the monster inside of her because she's already dealt with the monster inside of her for years, and it's not a monster inside; it's just her. And so, taking becoming and let's be clear here, she's not better than Bruce. She's it's pretty clear that Bruce is
Yeah,
strength
yeah, that's one
strength
of the things.
physically strength wise everything is better than her. What he's not better than her at is his own internal his own internal mental landscape. But he's getting there. What's great about it, like I know a lot of people seem to think that she's sort of shitting on him about his how long it took for him to get his shit together. But also in a way it's also showing that despite a lot of, what I consider to be many difficulties to actually bring himself together, he's actually gotten to a point where he actually is in a healthy mental landscape. And, you know, he does have stuff to offer to her, but also he has to understand that, hey, everyone's journey is different. Like part of the, that we'll talk about the controversial, kind of tirade she had. And that, I don't even like to call it tirade. She's more or less just kind of putting him in his place. But to me, the fact is that he's just like, hey, I know what it's like to be Hulk. Let me tell you all about it, And he's more or less telling her, control your anger, and she's just like, and she should be like, hey, we're not the same person. You can't sit there and expect to tell me you know exactly what to do for me because we're not the same person. No two people are mentally the same. And so it was nice, but when he kept insisting that he knew better, she kind of got upset about it. I was like, hey, chill. Like I got this. You don't have to tell me about how to control my anger. I've been doing that forever and a day, and proves it by controlling her hulking. And I think you and we sort of had I don't we didn't really have a back and forth. I kind of saw what you said about it, and I was like, well, I don't necessarily see it that way. So let me ask you what it to me now that having seen that and thought about the scene and everything. What about it bothered you? And
It wasn't that it was nothing that she said bothered me. Like I have no problem with what she said. It was just I didn't like that she said it to Bruce Banner. Sort of like it was like sort of a speech that I felt that if it was Iron Man or somebody else would be like, okay, yeah, you're right. But it was just like to Bruce Banner, I kind of felt that it's sort of like, for example, like if I told one of my cousins who's been through a lot that I'm like, well, I've had to deal with it because I've lost a family member, and they were like, well, your family member was my family member, and I also lost other people as well. So it's just like it was just sort of like one of those things that I just went like, it just kind of just threw me off a little bit. That I was just like, I don't think in the more and more I sit back on it, she's human. She was just angry, and I don't think she meant it. She meant to say what she said to her cousin that way. It was just out of anger, and I'm pretty sure, she probably was like, "Damn, I didn't mean to say that to you." And Bruce Banner showing he could control his anger, just looked at it like, "Yeah, you are getting angry, so part of me is right, but you are not like about to like strangle me." So that's all I was saying. Like some people were like, because like it all started like on Twitter because we were
because
talking about the
where
thing, and a lot of
where all shitty things start. But yes,
yeah, people thought I was being like this, anti-feminist or like, basically defending the mansplainers. And I'm like, I have no problem what she said. All I was saying is just like, in my opinion, I would not have, if I was in her position, I would not have said what she said to the Hulk because of family. That's all it was. That's just, I would not have said
well,
it.
and I
It
think
just,
that the fact that their family is the reason why she was felt free to kind of go off a little bit, just be like, hey, because I think she was free to actually express something that maybe to another man she wouldn't have.
Hmm.
And I think the reaction to it is the reaction that some certain segments of fandom have had to it is actually like, you guys are just kind of proving a point here. You're kind of proving her point about that she couldn't even just be angry about being mansplained to without someone's you know, calling her, crazy or disrespectful, or she's going on a tirade or whatever. I'm like, okay, so you prove her point that a dude could be mad and everyone's fine with it, but if she is, there's all sorts of repercussions for it. And so, I again, I listened to it. I was like, didn't bother me. You know, I think that if that hits you in your if that hits you personally, I think you might want to think about yourself. But honestly, I really think you ought to think about yourself because she wasn't saying anything out of line as far as I could tell. I think you have a point that maybe who she was sort of going off on, maybe that wasn't the right person, but she wasn't saying anything out of line.
It's kind of because the one of the reasons why it came up to me because I've recently had a moment like that, with a family member when I was in Nigeria, and like afterwards, my brother like pulled me to the side and was like, "Hey, man, you know, I know she's our mom, but she was a mom to them too." And I had to remember my cousin, my aunt passed away not too long ago too, and that was their mom. So to him, he lost two moms, and I was like, damn, I didn't think about it. So I was like, damn, for me to say what I said to him. Now I look back and I thought about it. I was like, damn, you know, he's been through more than I have. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Which isn't to say that what you've been through is lesser or anything.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that's what the way it maybe was taken, that she's just like, I'm better than you because you know my the things that I'm mad about are better or worse than yours. And I don't think that what that is. um, just that learning learning how to control one's emotions. It's not a fucking Olympics. It's not the oppression Olympics. It's not the who's had it worse. It's how you deal with it, and you learn the tools you learn to deal with it. And unfortunately, Bruce took a longer path to get to his where he's good than she needs to. And him accepting that that's true is one thing, and her accepting that yes, his difficulties are real and everything like that, and not diminish them. So, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that going on in this show, and unfortunately, you're right. That first episode probably needed the second episode too, which really tells me something about the writing, which is maybe y'all should make first episodes actually work as first episodes. I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, maybe I shouldn't have to watch two episodes to get this correctly. That's just a thought for the future. All that said, Jennifer loved it. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I love that. I was like, well, then it worked. Because, and it's probably another thing is that we know a lot about this character, right? So our
Yeah.
expectation is different. She doesn't know anything about She-Hulk, and she loved the episode. So maybe they're doing the right thing after all. Maybe it's us and our expectation and our prior knowledge is what
Yeah.
sets us up like that.
Yeah, that because I was coming, like I said, I was coming into this basically thinking this was going to be the Harley Quinn competitor. So that's just unfair expectations because Harley Quinn is on its third season of basically busting my gut. So
Yeah, but I mean, we'll see. Like, we got 8 more episodes to go. I was disappointed that Titania was in there for like all of
yeah,
a
that
minute.
that one,
I,
oh
I, I
my
hate that, and
goodness.
I hate that because like I recently thanks to the She-Hulk, kind of marketing stuff, I was like, who the hell is Titania? Then I realized who she was, the actress, and started following her on Twitter. And she's first of all, and I want to give Jamila a shout out. Like Tatiana Maslany, she's great. We got Mark Ruffalo, he's great. I liked him a lot in this episode. But Jamila Jamil as Titania looked badass. I don't give a fuck about all this bullshit that people were saying about she looked stupid. No, she looked awesome. And I've come to find out after having followed her, she's actually a really cool nerd. She's British. She's super into nerdy stuff and everything like that. She's like a somewhat older version of Iman Vellani, who's a super Marvel nerd, and she just nerds out and freaks out. But even though she's an actor and she's in the MCU, so she goes to premieres and sort of like freaks out because she got to like meet, Jeff Goldblum, or she got to meet, different people that are in the MCU. So shout out to her. Because I thought for her minute that she was in there, she was pretty cool, and I can't wait to see her again in the show. So, anyway, I'd say, you know what, episode good, and so I'm looking forward to the next episode. What say you, Lottie?
Yeah, I want to see what happens in the second episode. I kind of feel like I have to watch the first episode again, then go into the second episode, because it feels like, if you know what I mean, it feels like and every person I've watched review it, and they said they watched the first episode by itself. They even said that they don't know why Disney decided to just make this a one episode premiere, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, we'll see. So anyway, that's our thoughts on this first episode of She-Hulk. What do you guys think about it? What do you think about what we had to say? Get down to the comment section. Let us know what you're thinking. Of course, you can always hit us up, supernotfunnyshow@gmail.com, or at supernotfunnys1 on Twitter.